it happen? Did it happen in front of your kids at the bus stop?
They were actually waiting while my kids got on the bus, so they made sure my kids saw it happen. That's how depraved these individuals are. And I hope you all realize that now. I'm here right now because I'm exposing corruption. I'm exposing what really happened to John O'Keefe and the powerful and well-connected people who murdered him and cover up his murder. And this is what the state does to you when you do that. But several months from now, it will not be me standing on these courthouse steps. It will be the so-called victims. That's who will be here. Because ultimately justice will prevail and truth will prevail, and they will never shut me up. They will never, ever, ever stop me from reporting the truth about what happened to John O'Keefe.
Have you made $5 million off of this?
What an absurd and ridiculous. I wish. No, I have not made $5 million off of this.
How much have you made?
I have no idea. How much you make?
No,
How much you make? How much you make? I'm a reporter too. How much you make? Yeah, I don't know.
But I wasn't arrested for it today.
What's up?
You were the one who were arrested.
I was arrested for making money?
No.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. Next. Anyone else? Have any real quick? Who's this joker? Who is this clown? Who's this idiot?
Are you making money off of this?
Are you making money off of this? You're here right now, right? You're making money off. Oh, he works for Greg Henning's station. He works for WCVB.
Aiden, what does this mean for the reporting going forward? How do you understand the reporting going forward? Like what the restriction is? What does this mean? Does this mean
believe me, I am looking for an aggressive criminal defense lawyer to navigate because now we know that they're going to try to lock me up for telling the truth and exposing corruption. That's what they're going to try to do. So I am going to get an aggressive criminal defense lawyer. And if anybody's watching right now, I don't know who I'm going to pick yet, but we are going to mount a loud, vociferous defense.
Was that a public appointed lawyer that you hadn't had today? Or was
yes, that was the duty status lawyer, the guy that's in the courthouse. So
what the special prosecutor said.
You don't need to beg you money. You've got an army behind them.
Not just reporting the news, harassment.
Reporting the news is not harassment. Asking questions is not harassment. You guys all heard. You all heard what they read out loud today. And by the way, I was arrested by that guy right there, Lieutenant Brian Tully. One of the people I've been exposing. The man who signed all of those fraudulent police reports that we've now exposed for being lies. He had the audacity to come to my house and put me in handcuffs today. I'm not scared of him, and I will not be silenced, and I will be steadfast in keeping on with this mission to expose the real killers of John O'Keefe.
Do they serve a search warrant in your house too?
Yes.
Do you know what they grabbed from your house? Did they pull anything out?
I have no idea. So.
Are you going to do anything differently as far as your job?
Everything that you heard in that courtroom today is legal, protected opinion. I would like to point out that 2 weeks ago in this very same courthouse, one of the alleged victims in this matter attempted to get an order in here using those same exact arguments and those same exact quotes. The judge denied it. The judge denied that order in this same exact courthouse 2 weeks ago. So what has changed? What facts of his case have changed? Absolutely nothing. This is a gross exercise of state power. This is what fascism looks like. And as journalists, we should all be concerned that this is what they do. They also told me that every single person who came to the peaceful protest rolling rally in Canton on July 22nd, one of the things that has led to these charges, every single person in there is now under investigation. Hundreds of innocent people are under investigation, and they cannot arrest us all. Maybe they can.
Going in today, you mentioned something about a Ford SUV.
Yeah, so a Ford Edge. According to Lucky Loughran, the man who plowed 34 Fairview Road that day, at 2:30 a.m., he drove by Brian Albert's house, and there was no body on the front lawn. He said he would have seen a body had it been there. We know this because he was interviewed by Trooper Yuri Buchanek and one of the alleged quote-unquote victims in this case. According to Mr. Loughran, 30 minutes later at 3 a.m., he noticed that a Ford Edge was parked outside directly where John O'Keefe's body would later be found. 2 months later, here we are. Nothing has been done to find out who was driving the Ford Edge that was parked next to where a dead Boston police officer was found. Nothing. And this is what they're wasting their time with. Me. There is a man who murdered a Boston cop out there, and they're doing nothing about it. And they're coming after the only journalist who's actually reporting what happened. And I will not be intimidated. I will not be silenced. And we will continue on our journey for justice for John O'Keefe and for Karen Reed. Period.
It's incredibly powerful. Every single time I listen to that, it gives me goosebumps. It's probably, I single-handedly think it is the best Turtleboy speech in his entire career. That ending of that is just amazing. And I literally, like I said, I get goosebumps every single time I hear that. So my hat's off to Aiden on that one. It's an incredible presser that he gave out there on the courtroom steps after being released for this bullshit witness intimidation, bullshit charges. And here we are. So welcome in everybody to LTL Media. This is Let's Talk Live, and it is Monday night. It is getting very close. We are getting down to the April 1st deadline of the Karen Reed. Well, it's going to be jury selection, but kicking this trial off. And it may take a while here for this jury selection. But I thought tonight what we could do is look back at how this all started. Gosh, I just go back and look and I'm like, if that article, part one to that article on April 18th was never published, we wouldn't all be here. It would be a very different support for Karen Reed. I truly believe that. And Aiden is the man that blew this wide open and has done a phenomenal job. I mean, there's just no one that can touch his reporting in this case. I mean, he has it absolutely down, nailed down 100%, always on. It's incredible. It's incredible to watch him. He's someone that I had said here on my channel many of times. I admire him as a person and a reporter, and he's got my full support here. So anyway, I thought we would look back tonight and just kind of look how this all started, and maybe try to raise a little bit of funds for Aiden's defense fund. What I've done is I've clipped. I'll get this down tonight. I have pinned his defense fund link at the top of the chat. If you can click on that and make a donation, $5, $10, $20, whatever it may be, it'll really help out. And just please try to put LTL in your comment section. We'll try to add them up at the end. It'd be great. We can get $500 to $1,000 in there tonight. And if I have any donations that come through my channel tonight, I'll donate 25% back to Aiden. So let's get into a little bit of this. And, I was kind of thinking about all of this the other day, and it's, geez, how did this all start? How did we all get here? And if it wasn't for this article on his website, April 18, 2023, none of us would be here. It would be a very different story for Karen Reed. And I just look at the immense support that she has gotten over this last, almost 3 years. 3 years of her life has been essentially tied up in this sham and frivolous bullshit framing, whatever you want to call it, trial. And here we are. We're getting ready to go into Karen Reed 2.0. And I just sit here and I say, I can't believe it. I can't believe that the jury just could not see in the first trial everything that was going on, everything that was planted, everything that was manufactured, everything there was to, quote, pin it on the girl. And again, if it wasn't for Aiden, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here. So I'll read a little bit of this, but I'm actually going to go to Aiden's live that he did that night. We'll watch his opening statements on this, his closing statements. And then I want to go to, and this is the hearing that jumped off the map for me, because I think that this is the one I think that really pulled everybody in. And you just see this immense court presence in this hearing. And that's when we got the first chalk of John O'Keefe's arm held up in court by Liz Little and Bev telling her to put it down. And you can, you see a packed courtroom. It's unbelievable. And we'll play through that because it's a very important hearing. It's a very important hearing. We had April, the reporting here in April, and then May, people were onto it. Aiden was just spitting out articles and content and just getting people informed. And then the Free Karen Read movement forms, and it's worldwide now. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable and phenomenal that we're all here. So I'll read through a little bit of this. I just did receive a Cash App from Laura. So Laura, thank you so much. And I will add up the $15 here. And we'll start off with $15 here, and 25% of any donations tonight will get kicked back to Aiden's Defense Fund. So let's get into a little bit of this. I'm not going to read it all the way through. It's super long, but we will go to his live that he did that night and really, opening the world up to, what was going on here in Canton. So Canton Cover Up Part 1, corruption. Corrupt state trooper helps Boston cop cover murder of fellow officer framed innocent girlfriend. And it's this iconic kind of montage of the photos. I always go back to that. You get Jen McCabe's eye here and that creepy, crazy smile going on. So, we'll go in here. And again, it says here, we'll be discussing this wild story on the live show Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. after the Celtics game. And then you have the click to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's pretty crazy stuff. And look at how much he's grown. So we'll read a little bit of this. I mean, we know the story, but I want to go to his live stream in a second, and then we'll go to that hearing to end the show. But it says, on the morning of January 29, 2022, Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found dead outside of a Canton home of a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, at 34 Fairview. O'Keefe's girlfriend, Karen Read, was charged with manslaughter after reportedly backing over O'Keefe with her car after she got into a fight with him and dropped him off at the Albert's house after a night of drinking. She was cascaded widely as a cop-killing villain set to face decades in prison, but as it would turn out, at least a dozen of people likely witnessed O'Keefe being violently beaten to death before hatching an elaborate plot to frame Karen Read for killing him. The cover-up is aided and abetted by members of the Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police Department, and Norfolk County DA's office. This is a story of one woman alone facing down some of the most powerful and well-protected people in the state who sought to destroy her life and exonerate herself. This is Karen Read and John O'Keefe, and that is the first photo that we see in this article. And it's funny. I remember when I had the opportunity to go into court last year during the trial, and I remember going down into the lower court where Karen was waiting to be called up, and I remember being there and Alan Jackson coming over. I talked to Karen's mom that day for a good 20 minutes. I spoke with her dad a little bit, Bill, and then Karen, Alan Jackson, and David Yannetti walked over, and Alan said, it's this case, he said, I appreciate everything that you have done for Karen, raising awareness, being kind of an independent media source and getting the truth out there, along with all the other amazing people that cover this case and all the amazing creators that have done a great job, the people on X, and just really, hashing this over and getting all the positive and correct information out there. But he said, it's crazy to think that if it wasn't for all of you, if it wasn't for, Aiden really cracking the story wide open, this case would be very different for Karen in a public sense. She probably wouldn't have the support that she does. And, he's like, I completely 100% believe in her innocence. And that's why we're all here. And we're going to help her through this process. And it was pretty amazing, little speech by Alan. And I was just, taken back. And then I had the opportunity to take a nice photograph with them and have, a piece of, history to remember. So I have that actually up on the wall there. I blew it up in like an 8x10. and that will stay in the studio forever. And it's a great moment, and it was a great opportunity that I had, that opportunity to go in and sit in court and witness, a trial that I've been covering here on my channel for, close to almost 2 years. And again, I just go back to this article, and if this was never, ever written and exposed to the world, we wouldn't all be here. We wouldn't all be here for this common cause. So we'll read through a little bit of this. I want to get to the live because it's a little bit better. It's interactive. So Karen is an intelligent, successful accountant and a college professor with not a hint of a criminal record. She had been dating O'Keefe several years, and she loved his niece and nephew, who he adopted like family. She owned a house in Mansfield. That she rented out, but lived with O'Keefe and his niece and nephew at his home at 1 Meadows Avenue in Canton. O'Keefe was well-liked 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department. On February 2nd, Reed was charged with killing O'Keefe, and she may have actually believed she was responsible. And we have the photos there. And it's going to go into a lot of the original PCA, the charging document, and you get all these photos. Let's see. I mean, it's just a complete story. Again, it's such a long article, but I would point people, if you haven't heard about this story, you're just coming into it. This is the article you want to read, because it has the baseline of what is going on. So I'll drop the article here. I mean, we know all the background. We've been here, but I want to get to that first live stream that Aiden talks about this case, and we'll play his opening statements and his closing statements. He kind of does the timeline in between, and that's something that you can also check out as well if you want to go through this live stream. I'll drop the link. We're going to kind of just jump around for time purposes tonight. So let's see. This was on April 18th, 2023. And I just want to see if we're getting any donos coming through. If we are, awesome. We have a $10 that's gone through already. Awesome. So we have one person, $10. Hey, we know we're moving the needle a little bit here. But again, I'd appreciate if you click that link at the top. We'll try to raise some money for Aiden tonight. $500, $1,000 in that defense fund would be really great. All right, let's play through this, and we'll hear how this all started. It's pretty crazy to go back and look at all this.
Story out of Canton, Massachusetts, man. Let me tell you. And what's creepy about this story is that it's right next door to Stoughton, Massachusetts, where we kind of chronicled another scandal involving police officers from the Stoughton Police Department that ended in Canton. They groomed.
Yep.
And they kind of all had sex with this vulnerable young girl who turned into a woman and ended up being pregnant and allegedly killed herself. Kirk Minahan has done a podcast series called The Case with that. He believes that the girl was murdered. I don't. I think she committed. I mean, but what do I know? It's just a crazy story. But I support the police. I really do. But it's like, man, I'm starting to like. How many of these stories am I going to see now? And I see good cops like Shana Catoni being stripped of their badges for not getting the jab and whatnot. And meanwhile, like, I bet you these cops are all jabbed. So I guess that makes them good, right? Like Brian Albert probably got the vaccine. So Boston's in good hands, right? Sure, he might have killed someone, but at least he's going to have less symptoms if he ever gets coronavirus. So he's got that going for him. Okay. But anyway, so this story, when I remember when I first saw this story last year, I don't know. I remember looking at it. Obviously I look at stories like this and I just didn't have a take on it. Like when I remember seeing the headlines that a Boston police officer was run over in a driveway by his girlfriend in a snowstorm, and that she didn't realize she had done it until afterwards. And I went on her LinkedIn and I'm like, I remember looking at her thing. I'm like, oh man, this woman's sharp. Normally you don't expect that. Like college educated, works at a university, work good with numbers. Like you'd probably want to hire her. And it's like, but everybody makes mistakes. You know, anyone could have too much to drink and just heat of the moment do something like that. And I think that's kind of how it was portrayed. So I didn't really have an opinion. So I don't write about stories that I don't have strong opinions on. But it's just, I wasn't feeling, people are saying the dono link is not working. Is that right? Let me see what happens with the dono link. Is that not working? Let me just click on that.
But the dono link at the top of the chat is working tonight. And if you click on that, we're going to try to raise some money for Aiden tonight. I really would appreciate it. $5-10. Just make sure to put LTL in your comment so we can try to add these up at the end of the night. It would be really greatly appreciated. All right, here we go.
The turtle chat. Oh, it's just not working. What happens when you refresh it? I don't know. If you refresh it, it works. Just try refreshing it. It worked for me when I refreshed it. And you can always cash at me if you want to do it that way. $ Uncle Turtleboy. Okay. So anyway, I remember seeing the story and I just didn't have that strong of an opinion on it. But something about it just didn't smell right. And it just seemed like it was at the home of a Boston police officer. Obviously, the Boston police officers are going to kill another Boston police officer. And I felt bad for her when I saw it, like on the news. I'm like, man, that sucks. This woman, you know, has her shit together and she just got drunk one night and appears to have not even known that she backed this guy over. I'm sure she didn't mean to kill him. And I'm sure it's eating her up inside.
It's crazy how the positioning, right? And I'm just looking at Lori, you know, the positioning of, you know, he's just kind of getting a handle on this. It's probably not deep in it like we are now, you know, and hearing his wording and kind of where his opinion is and how he's gone, how he just played the presser and how much it's changed, you know, in almost, you know, 2 years. It's really crazy to go back and look at all this. All right, let's keep playing.
But that was not the case at all. And so let's just kind of chronicle our way through the story, relive it if we can. So on the morning of January 29th, John O'Keefe, a veteran, I think he was on the force for 16 years, Boston police officer, was found dead outside of a home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. The home belonged to Brian Albert and his wife. Brian Albert is a sergeant in the Boston Police Department who serves on the Fugitive Apprehension Unit, which, according to Boston police officers I spoke with, that's like the gig. You want that one. It's a good lifestyle, good money. You know, it's fun. You get to go track down the bad guys. And he's been on that show, Boston's Finest, I think it was called. I never watched it, but he was on there. So he's pretty well known. And
We've gone from the water bottle to the Stanley Cup, right?
told that he's connected. He's one of Marty's people, Marty Walsh. And you know, politics in the Boston police department's ugly. Like if you don't have the right people that have your back, they're going to get you. Like ask Matt Morrissey, police officer who got, you know, they stalked him for like over a year to see if he was violating the city's residency requirements for Boston Police Department. And I don't know where John O'Keefe stood in that hierarchy of the Boston Police Department, but it wasn't as high as Brian Albert's, I think. He seemed to be more protected. So O'Keefe's girlfriend, Karen Reed, ends up getting charged with manslaughter because she reportedly backed over him after a fight. That was the narrative that was put out there after a night of drinking. She was widely castigated as a cop-killing villain, right? And maybe she was an easy person to dislike for a lot of people because, you know, you look at her, she's attractive and, you know, has her shit together. Maybe people looked at her as elitist. I don't know how they looked at her, but for some reason, I remember this coming out and people thought she was like an easy villain somehow to dislike. People like a villain that's different from all the other villains. And they're like, see, I differentiate. I like all villains. You know, it's like, I don't like her just because she looks nice doesn't mean that she's a nice person. And I think that's the mentality that a lot of people had when they went into this. But anyway, as it would turn out,
Bettero's going to be on the show with me and Todd McGee on Wednesday night at 7. I'm just going to answer this here. Samantha would say, I wanted to send a dono for your stream with Bettero asking him a question. Should I send it now? And will you hold it? No, just wait till Wednesday when they're on. We'll do it then. It's just a lot easier. I'll have Todd McGee and Mark Betterow on the show on Wednesday. We're going to be a week out from the start of jury selection, and I just want to get their perspective. We're going to talk about how the defense can attack this bogus Commonwealth evidence. Some theories on that. I want to talk about the police procedures of actually collecting that evidence. I think that's an area to expose. And then just what will we see for the defense and the Commonwealth this time around? And do we think that Hank Brennan's going to be able to hold up to the task? So I think it's going to be a great show. I'm going to probably ask Mike from the Young Jerks to come on if he doesn't have a show planned. And then on Thursday night, I'll be over, I believe it's going to be on Mike's channel or Maz's channel. We're doing a fundraiser for Karen Reed with some rotating guests. I'll be on there, guest hosting and helping out. So all the particulars will be up on Twitter and whatnot. So, all right, let's keep playing through here. Again, I want to just play the opening of this. We'll play his closing comments. And then I do want to play that May 23rd hearing back from 2023, because that's really the one that started bringing in all the public attention. And you can see the courtroom. It is packed. It is absolutely packed. And the support for Karen is just unimaginable in that courtroom. There's people actually standing in the court to actually get a glimpse and hear the hearing. Right,
at least by my count, I did a count of this. There was at least 11 other people
Cocky's
that were in that house.
Says Thursdays on the Young.
What we know for goddamn sure, 100%, was she did not run him over. We know that for several reasons. Number one,
by the way, happy birthday to Meredith, by the way. So Meredith, happy birthday if you see this. I totally forgot to say that at the beginning of the show. Enjoy your time, whatever you're doing. And I hope it's a good birthday. You're having a great birthday. So happy birthday, by the way.
The most obvious one is you don't have 6 lacerations on your arm. You don't have 2 black eyes. You aren't bleeding out of your mouth and your nose. If you get bumped going slowly during a 3-point turn, how are you going to kill someone doing it like that? I mean, I suppose it would take like a freak landing, but you're not going to, I mean, with those injuries, that made no sense. How that alone was not the biggest red flag,
right?
That something is not right here is insane to me. Like, that makes no sense. They immediately just went with the narrative that she did it, and they worked from there. They didn't even consider anyone else. Because as we're
what did Proctor say? Within 16 hours, Karen Reed was already in his grasp. Karen Reed was the one that did it. 16 hours into the investigation. 16 hours.
See, people, when I say they, it's really one state trooper, and he was covering for the whole thing, and he was going to make sure that the right person was put behind bars, and she was the right person. So the cover-up was aided and abetted by the state police, or at least one trooper, who, by the way, can we talk about how Michael Proctor, why was he even on that? Like, why was he even assigned that duty? He doesn't do homicides. How many homicides has Michael Proctor done in his tenure I believe the state police have a homicide unit, do they not? Why is this guy working homicides? That's interesting. Who delegated that? Remember, this is an organization, the state police, that we exposed 6 years ago for massive corruption when they orchestrated what is now known as Troopergate, and they redacted the arrest report for a judge's daughter, Ali Bebo. And then when 2 troopers did not want to participate in that, they were reprimanded for being good cops. So apparently nothing's changed. We kept hearing about reform, but we still have shitty troopers, but at least they're jabbed. They got that going for them. They got jabbed. So anyway, the cover up, as I said, was aided and abetted by the state police for sure, the Canton Police Department. Although I do want to point out that this story, in my opinion, does not get told without rogue, anonymous Canton Police Department members who spoke up quietly. I think the people at the top of the Canton Police Department, the chief, as we saw, I don't know if he planted evidence but he
Wow.
was driving by one day and just saw it. So that was weird. And the deputy chief lives across the street, but the ring camera, he said, didn't pick up anything
Yeah.
interesting. Somehow.
It's so funny. I was out there the other day with my friend Lauren. She hasn't been down 34 Fairview. So when she came up for our live show on Sunday, we did our live show. We went and grabbed something to eat. And she's like, will you take me over there? I'm like, of course. So we went over and parked off on a little side road, and we walked the road a couple of times. I wanted her to get a feeling for it. You know, the curvature of the road, the like 30-degree grade in the road. And then I pointed out like all the areas of how many times the PCA changed the charging document. Like they said that her car was here first, and then they said it was here. And this is where she said that John hit him. And, this is where supposedly did the pirouette and landed. And we're just literally shaking our head. And they're going, I'm like, there's no way possible this is ever going to happen. And when she saw the curvature of the road right before it gets to the fire hydrant and the flagpole, we're just sitting there and we're like, Karen must have been fucking, if she did this, one hell of a NASCAR driver, because there's no way, like, even when we saw Aiden's video, when he went down there and kind of recreated the scene, I mean, he went up onto the curb. It would have left a skid mark on the curb. And it's just impossible because it's just the turn. So you add nighttime and snow and, ice and all that shit into it. It's impossible. It did not happen. It did not happen. Yeah. And then they had the 3-point turn theory as well, too. I mean, it's changed multiple times. And I'm sure we're going to hear this time around in 2.0, will probably change again, too. So it's absolutely impossible. But, she hadn't seen that. We wanted to go down there, and we went down and I took some photos. And what did we find right across the street? That webcam. And I'm going, you know what? I guarantee you it's probably working right now. It's videoing us right now. And I'm like, there's no way that was not working that night. There's no way it wasn't. And the only reason they're not releasing the footage, because you know why? Because it shows them dragging John O'Keefe out on the lawn and dropping him and leaving him to die. I mean, I've said this in trial 1. If they wanted to nail this down, that would be the absolute moment. The absolute moment that would have nailed Karen Reed down. The footage, we have the footage of the killer right here, backing up, hitting John O'Keefe and leaving him there to die. And they don't produce a video. I mean, it literally could have been used in the Commonwealth's open statement. That's why this is bullshit. That is the video footage that would have just sealed the deal. And they don't produce it. They say it didn't record, it didn't capture anything. That's it. It's bullshit. The most available fucking camera that would catch the scene of everything didn't work that night. Didn't record anything. Okay. If you say, okay, that's because it's showing what they did to John. What they did to John after Karen left. All right, let's get back into this.
There's no trees. It's like the wide open landscape. Didn't pick up anything. I think those guys at the top were shady. But I think a lot of rank and file, punch in, punch out Canton police officers were like, fuck this, I'm saying something. And they spoke. Now, I don't know who they reached out to first, but all I'm saying is suddenly, out of nowhere, Karen Reed's defense attorneys had a shitload of information to work with and knew everything immediately, knew everything. Their court documents, I suppose they're part theory, but the details put into that are those are coming from someone in the know is giving them those details. So this woman, and I kind of ended it with this, in the Norfolk County DA's office, I'm kind of tied on what their complicity in this. I understand it's their job to get convictions, but, and I don't really know how this works, and maybe a lawyer can fill me in on this about what is, if they know that this evidence exists out there, did they know this evidence existed? Because Trooper Proctor did, and went through a lot of hoops to make sure that It wasn't given to the defense, but the Norfolk County DA's office know this stuff was out there. That's still a little bit confusing to me. But as I ended it here, I said, this is the story of one woman alone facing down some of the most powerful, well-protected people in the state who sought to destroy her life and exonerate herself. And I've never spoken to this woman before. Maybe I will someday. I'd really like to meet her because I'm impressed by her. Because if I were her, I would be depressed, right? I would be scared. Now, I didn't speak to her, but I spoke to people who knew her. Let's just put it that way. And I'm like, is she scared? And they go, no, she's not. She's confident.
This is incredible.
She's confident. She's a confident woman.
This is great.
She's not worried. Like, she knows she didn't do this. And she's more going on the offensive now to show who did do it. And you're right, blurred lines. Thank God she had, like, what happened? Like, luckily she could hire high-priced attorneys from Los Angeles to come here with the Latin term pro hac vice and practice law in our state. And really, I mean, those guys were the real detectives. Those guys did everything. I mean, get yourself the lawyers that she had. Holy shit, they got everything. And this will be dismissed. I'm sure of that. This is not going to go to trial.
Oh, God.
It's going to be dismissed.
Oh,
I
God.
can't imagine.
Look where we are, right? It's crazy to watch this. It's just crazy to watch like his positioning back then because he's still learning. You know, we're all still learning. And he had the jump on this, you know, he had the jump on this. And I came into it in September, right? Yeah, September, maybe August, the end of August, September is when I came into it. And I remember the way that I found out about it is I was doing an incredible amount of live shows on the Idaho 4, and I'm going to be bringing that back. I've been talking about it as we're getting all these new documents that are getting unsealed. I mean, there's tons of information in there. But I remember, I actually want to go back. I'm going to scrub through my Idaho towards the end of when I really kind of stopped cover it and transitioned into this. But I want to go back because I remember in that chat and pulling it up. And someone was like, hey, have you ever heard about the Karen Reed case? And I go, yeah, I heard about that like a year ago, but I didn't really dig into it. And they're like, you need to look into it. You're from Massachusetts. And I think it happened right near you. And that's where I kind of went down the wormhole with it. And I was like, what the fuck? And I read the first initial PCA. I started sourcing some news articles about it. And then all of a sudden the algorithm spit me right into Turtleboy. And I was like, what? Aiden's covering this? No shit. Because I remembered Aiden from all like his political stuff that he's done and talking about COVID and just all the things that he has done. And I remember being on with Jerry Callahan. He used to do the show with him, and they would talk about all the political candidates, and he's exposing all the shit that they get into and do wrong. And I was like, oh my God, Aiden's doing this. And that led me to Framed. And I remember watching it and I was like, holy shit, like this is crazy. And here I am. But it's crazy to kind of watch him process this information. And he's still kind of like asking a lot of questions. And he goes from that to what he is now and how far deep he's in this. It's pretty amazing to watch. And I always love going back and watching some of my old stuff too, and how much everything has changed or my thoughts or opinions about things. And it's pretty cool.
Norfolk County District Attorney's Office will object to a motion to dismiss at this point. How can they? I don't know what their argument would be for that. But then what? We'll get to that. We'll get to like the ideas about what can happen now if it's too late. They sold the house last week, dude. Sold the house last week. That's crazy. So, I'm just really impressed by the way that she, by herself, took down and exposed a huge conspiracy of people who were determined to destroy her life in order to save their own. And she's going to win. And that's impressive. So there they are. They were on again, off again, I believe, couple. They've known each other for like 20 years. And he has a niece and a nephew who he adopted from his
All right, this is more of the timeline. I just want to hear his story. I want to go to his final thoughts here, and then I do want to get to that May 23rd hearing, because this really made the big impact for the public support. You know, after about a month of this catching on and him talking about it, you're going to see that first May 23rd hearing. I mean, there's people standing because all the seats are taken, and I want to play through that because I think it's probably one of the most powerful hearings in all of this, even though we've had some great ones lately. But that is really the hearing that cracked it open for everybody to start really opening up and going, all right, something's not right here. But we'll get his final thoughts, and then we'll go over there. Again, I'm dropping the link to Aiden's Defense Fund tonight. If you could really help him out, drop a couple bucks in his bucket there. It'll help with his defense fund. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the commitment tonight just for doing this and giving back, that if we don't get to at least $100, I'm going to drop $100 in his pan tonight. I'll do that for him. So if we don't get to the $100, I'll at least drop the $100 in his bank tonight. So, okay. Let me just do this. Joey, aka Lumpy, aka Honey Boo, member 5 months. Thank you so much. Said Brian Mods in chat. Thank yous all in hashtag free Karen Reed. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'll commit to at least I'll commit to $100 if we don't raise that tonight. And I'll do that for Aiden. So, all right, let's go here.
Nagel, they can all be charged for murder. Of course, you're not going to be. There will be deals, and I'm sure that the police can leverage that to get deals. Okay. And so actually the guy who messaged me that says that I'm not arguing that it was Karen Reed. I agree she's innocent, but I don't think it was Colin. So who was it, Brian? And I'm sorry if it happened in the house, which means Colin witnessed it, which means Colin is a joint venturer. They're all murderers. Every single person in that house can be charged with murder.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for the membership. We'll put a 5 spot up there. And so what we'll do is, how about we do this? I'll put up the 100, okay? And then anything else that comes in. So we had 15 and 5, that's $20, and then 25% of that will get kicked back as well. So I'll put $100 in, and then we got $20 on top of that. And as we keep going, if there's any donations that come through here, 25%, I'll kick that to Aiden. And of course, I just want to direct everybody to that link that I'm dropping to just do a firsthand donation right there. That would really help out. But all right, let's keep going here. His final thoughts, and then we'll go to that May 23rd hearing. Appreciate you all being here with me. We're going to have Mark Betterow and Todd McGee on the show live on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. I think I'm going to try to get Mike from the Young Jerks on the show if he's not busy. Maybe we can have a 4-way panel. If not, we'll do 3. And I think that night's going to be really great too. So here we go.
They won't be, and they will leverage that against them. I am sure. You're murder for something you didn't do. You ain't going to take the fall for these people. You ain't going to take the fall for these people. So anyway, I think, in my opinion,
here we go.
You know, if this theory is correct, Brian Albert and Colin Albert were involved with then they should be charged with first-degree murder. I don't know what the charge would be for Proctor. He obviously was not there that night. But what he did to go out of his way, I mean, the corruption involved in that, to wrongly implicate an innocent woman who we knew was innocent for murder in order to cover for his friends, to abuse his office, to abuse his power. Oh, that's a whole different set of charges. Jennifer McCabe was in the house. That's a murder charge if they want it. But orchestrating the cover up too, you know? And yeah, like the attorneys here, Yannetti and Alan Jackson, dude, they're good. Like, Google them. You think they're intimidated by some small town Massachusetts selectman cop family? Come on. They laugh at that. They're going to eat you townies for lunch. You're done. You're done. I hope they have lawyers. I think any Canton police, the Canton police need a complete duo. Whoever the whistleblowers are from the Canton Police Department, they should be the chief. And the chief should be setting pins in a bowling alley somewhere for their screw up in this. And Karen Reed, I felt bad for her at first because I'm like, oh man, she probably can't make much money right now. I don't know really how. She's got a lot of money saved up. Because she's very frugal, I'm told, and good with finances. But she can't go back to the finance world after this. It's too awkward, right? Too much has happened. But she's not going to have to. Karen Reed is going to be a rich woman. I think she's going to be a very wealthy woman. And I think that she will be able to dedicate the rest of her life to being a public speaker. She could start a nonprofit, an innocence project kind of thing. Because how often does this happen, man? That's what, and of course, Sue for millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that you're going to get.
Yeah, and we'll do this here. Chrissy, thank you so much for becoming a new member. That'll be a 25 spot. I'm going to front the $100. So 25% after that, we'll kick back to Aiden. Of course, I want to just direct everybody to that defense fund link. If you can click it there, click on the defense fund link. I'd rather the straight donations go there. But if you want to chat me, super chat, whatever, that's perfectly fine too. But I'll donate 25% back, just like I usually do with the Karen Reed lives. Just click on that link. $5-10 would be great. Just put LTL in the comment. Try to add them up at the end of the show here. I'm just trying to raise a little bit of money tonight for Aiden's Defense Fund. So, Chrissy, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Appreciate that. It's crazy to listen to his position. He's still so raw in all of this. And, I just said this the other day. I was talking about lawsuits now that Michael Proctor has been let go. Why not start that civil lawsuit against him? I don't know how that all works. Well, actually, no. Well, yeah, I guess Karen could. Defamation, get it all in there. Get it all in there. Start the wheels turning now. All right, let's keep going here.
You're going to settle. They're not going to take it to court. They're going to settle it. They are going to write you a fat check. State police, local police, district attorney's office, sue them all. They all knew. Definitely sue the Alberts. Take all their assets, everything. Sue them all. She will never have to work another day in her life again, but I'm sure she'll want to. And I think she can dedicate the rest of her life to being some sort of public speaker or running a nonprofit. See what I'm saying? Counseling people who have been in the same thing. She can use this for good. And from what I hear about this woman, that is her plan. Because
no
Karen
problem.
Reed is a winner.
Well, okay, it's $20. That's great. We'll try to look at them at the end, see if we can, raise a couple $100. 500 would be great. If we got to 1,000, would be really great tonight. That'd be great. We'll see what we can do.
She's a winner. She's she's a stronger person than me. I would have been depressed and defeated at this point. I mean, I would have fought back, but from what I understand, you even look at her outside the courthouse, how confident she looked. She looked confident, man. She ain't worried about this at all. Every other person, in that house should be charged with obstruction of justice as they witnessed the crime and never reported it and watched and read the newspapers as this innocent woman was charged with manslaughter. Okay? That is the kind of fear.
And this is just the manslaughter charge at this time. And then what happens? She gets rearrested and they charge her with the 2 up charges.
The Alberts put into these
how
people.
This all changed.
That's going to have to be the defense. I was scared shitless. That's why I said nothing. So, okay. So that's a crazy story. Got a couple turtle chats here.
All right. Great. That's really good stuff to go back and look at that. I think it's really good to go back and look. All right. Let's now fast forward about a month later. Karen Reed has another hearing and watch the packed courtroom. People are literally just standing inside the courtroom. They're dying to get in there and listen to this. And again, if it wasn't for Aiden, that story, that that article on his website and this live that we just reviewed, it would be a different story for Karen Reed. And again, I've been dropping his defense link inside the chat. If you could help him out and donate to his defense, would really help him out. And we're going to go through this. I haven't heard this. I haven't seen this one in a while. I haven't heard it in a while. And this is really the one, this is the hearing that blew it wide open and really got people attracted to this case and getting involved in the Free Karen Reed movement. I remember when I first heard about this, this was the hearing that I watched, and I said, wait a minute, something's going on here. I got a Venmo that just came in for $20. So we'll add that, and 25% of your donation will go back to Karen Reed's defense fund. Thank you so much, MP. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's hear it. Let's get into it, and let's see how much has changed. Maybe some other details have been left out. You know, I know this story has this case has evolved so much. Here we go.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Alan Jackson from Worksman Jackson and Quinn, along with Elizabeth Little from Worksman Jackson and Quinn, on behalf of Karen Reed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson. Good afternoon, Ms. Little. Good afternoon, Ms. Reed. Okay, so we're here for the Rule 17 motions. Who's going to argue those?
So, Your Honor, there are two motions before the court that we'd like to be heard on. One is the motion to renew our motions to compel, which we'd like to be heard on first, if the court pleases. And I would be arguing that motion. With regard to the Rule 17 motion for the animal control records, my colleague, Mr. Jackson, would be arguing that second, if the court pleases.
Okay. All right, I'll hear you.
Look at the people. Look at the courtroom. It's packed. It is so packed. Look at the courtroom. Packed. Absolutely packed.
We are seeking immediate access to John O'Keefe's clothing, to all evidence seized from my client's vehicle, to tissue and other samples from John O'Keefe's autopsy, and to the original Canton Library video, which we still do not have. We are asking this court specifically to set a hard deadline for access to this mandatory discovery and evidence. Your Honor, at the outset, it is important for me to emphasize why a deadline needs to be set. It's important to emphasize why time is of the essence for our access to this evidence. It's been 15 months since my client was arrested and falsely charged with killing John O'Keefe. Prior to 15 months ago, my client was employed in two prestigious positions. Prior to 15 months ago, she had a robust health insurance plan that covered her numerous serious medical conditions. But 15 months ago, she lost everything. 15 months ago, these false allegations began to destroy her life. And for the last 15 months, she has been fighting for her life. 15 months after her arrest, she has no income. She does not come from a wealthy family. Her father was a respected and now retired educator. Her family is very squarely middle class. But given that Karen Reed is now fighting for her life, whatever money that they've saved is all going to her defense in this case. She's hired private counsel from two coasts. She's hired multiple experts at considerable costs. And when I say considerable, I mean tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And the meter is running with each passing court date. She can't afford to scrimp on her defense because her life is at stake. In the 11 months that this case has been pending in this court, we've continually asked for access to the same basic mandatory discovery evidence.
Okay, let's hear what they're asking for. Let's hear what they're asking back in 2023, May 23rd of 2023. And I'm telling you, a lot has changed. A lot has changed, but these are the basics. Here we go.
We've been prohibited from inspecting that evidence. In February of 2022, the police seized John O'Keefe's clothing. It's now May of 2023. We haven't seen it. We haven't inspected it. We haven't been able to test it.
Look at that.
In February of 22,
and have they had that opportunity now? You still got to question it. Have they had that opportunity?
Police seized pieces of taillight from my client's vehicle.
Here we go.
Pieces that they claim to have found at the residence where John O'Keefe died, despite the fact that multiple searches initially turned up nothing. Pieces of the taillight were only found after Trooper Michael Proctor, conflicted Michael Proctor, had seized my client's vehicle and had it in his possession for well over an hour. That evidence needs to be put to the test, and it needs to be put to the test now. We have been prohibited from testing it, from inspecting it, from even seeing it. There were tissues and other samples from the autopsy of John O'Keefe to which we've been denied access. We believe that when those samples are tested, the results will be exculpatory, likely case ending. But 15 months after she was arrested and 11 months after she was arraigned in this court, that evidence remains hidden from the defense. The police have maintained exclusive control over the event data recorder and the Lexus infotainment system from my client's vehicle. We have seen neither. Wow. And this is simply unacceptable. Prohibiting the defense from inspecting this evidence is infringing on my client's constitutional right to a speedy trial, and it's infringing on her right to due process. It's almost 3 months ago that we last appeared before you, Your Honor. We requested access to these items, and yet again, the response from the Commonwealth was that they would be tested soon. The prosecutor had represented within 30 to 60 days. That's on record. It's now close to 90 days. We've made zero progress. This court did order that the Commonwealth request expedited testing, but that order has yielded nothing. I asked the court to set deadlines then, which the court was not inclined to do. 3 months later, it is crystal clear that deadlines need to be set. Without a deadline, we have no assurances that this case will not drag on who knows how long into the future. With each passing day, my client, who not only is presumed to be innocent, but is factually innocent, remains jobless, with inadequate health insurance, and with each passing day, her savings and her family's savings continue to be depleted. There is no time to wait. There is no time to waste. It is time for excuses to end. As we noted in our motion, the prosecution and the crime lab move very quickly when they want to. In other cases pending before this very court, the very same investigators secured DNA testing within 2 weeks of opening their investigation before anybody was charged. Contrast that with our case, where here we are 15 months later, no such testing has even started. Regarding the Canton Library video, this court should know we still do not have relevant time periods. From the Commonwealth's evidence, we know that my client drove by the Canton Library at 12:16 a.m. on January 29th because that.
I just want to pause this really quick and just do some donation updates here. So I'm going to go down and look. We have, try to add up what we have on Aiden's website so far. So we have $10. We have another $10 that was donated. We have a $25. And I'm reading this off Aiden's Defense Fund website. There's one here that is a $20 donation from Narnachusis. Is that someone in the chat room? If that's someone in the chat room, I'd love to add that because that's something that we raised during the stream here. Let me know if that's one of you. It's a $20 donation from, I think it's Narnachusis. It was 11 minutes ago. Let us know in the chat if that's one of you. And then we have another $25. So we're at 70. There is a $50 donation from a Mary Pat. If that is someone in here, that would be great. Because we could add that to the total as well. So, and then there was another anonymous giver at $20. So I don't know if any of those are people in here, but right now, as it stands, we're at $70. I'm going to kick in $100, and then we have another, let's see, 40, and 25% of that will be kicked back. So, all right, let's keep going here.
That was recorded. There is video of her driving by at that time, heading to 34 Fairview, which is where John O'Keefe died, with her taillight intact. We know that my client arrived back at John O'Keefe's residence at 1 Meadows Ave in Canton at 12:41 a.m. because the Commonwealth produced a voicemail that she left for John where you can hear the garage door closing, the car door closing, the house door closing while she walked in her high heels on the garage floor. One Meadows is about a mile from the Canton Library. We know the video equipment was working because they have that footage from 12:16 a.m. But in the video that the prosecution turned over to us, there is a gap in that video from 12:37 a.m. to 12:39 a.m., which would have been the precise time my client would have been driving back past the library. We know that that footage would show that my client's taillight was still intact at that point because she never struck John O'Keefe with her vehicle. Yet the prosecution has produced a video from the library with that crucial time period missing. This evidence is strictly in their possession. We've been told that the Canton police provided the evidence to them via a share file. I'm sorry, the Canton Library provided this evidence to them via a share file link with a guest ID and a guest password. We need that link, that user ID and that password. We cannot rely on Trooper Michael Proctor, conflicted Michael Proctor, to sanitize exculpatory evidence before sending it to us. We need the original footage. If the Commonwealth answers that that original footage no longer exists, then we'll need an evidentiary hearing to put the relevant parties under oath to find out what happened to it. The bottom line here, Your Honor, is that we've spent 15 months trying to uncover the truth. We are not afraid of whatever evidence is unearthed from whatever source, because for 15 months, every stitch of evidence has been consistent with my client's innocence. However long this case lasts, and I sure hope the prosecution comes to their senses and realizes they have no case because they've charged the wrong person. But however long this case lasts, the remaining evidence will drive a stake through the heart of this prosecution. In the meantime, my client suffers. In the meantime, her life is on hold while she spends every waking moment defending herself emotionally, intellectually, and financially. We cannot abide by excuses any longer. We need this court's help. We need you, Your Honor, respectfully, to hold the prosecution's feet to the fire.
So I think that's the $20 donation, right? So we'll add that. So we're at 90 right now and that's great. You know, if we get $500 in there tonight, it would be really good. I don't see any others in here. So we're at about $90 and, you know, a couple $100 here so far. All right, let's go.
We need this court to order the Commonwealth to stop trampling on my client's rights to a speedy trial and her right to due process. We need this court to set deadlines for the production of this evidence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lally?
Oh, here we go.
So in response to counsel's motion, just in response to the statement that every piece of evidence that's been provided thus far is inconsistent with the defendant's guilt and consistent with her innocence, I would have a large issue with that. But as it pertains to these particular pieces of evidence, counsel's right in that motions were filed. Counsel's right in that motions were allowed when as related to inspection of said materials, and the Commonwealth has no issue with inspection of materials once they're back from the lab. Now, the last time we were before this court, back in February, the court had asked myself to reach out to the lab and see if there was anything that could be done to expedite the analysis. I did that, spoke with and filed the necessary paperwork with the lab to expedite as much of the analysis that could be done at that particular time. So at that time, what I was provided with was a deadline of no later than May 5th. Those items, at least as far as the trace analysis and the criminalistics was concerned, would be completed, and I should expect something close to that date. I confirmed with the lab as of yesterday that that timeline is still a viable one. The case is currently in technical review. So once that's completed, then we should have reports that I'm able to provide to counsel.
Kind of weird not hearing his voice for a while, right? I'll answer this. Hank is asking how is Mazza, and I'm going to do the respectful thing here and read it right from his ex. He put a statement out today. Let's see. Mazza Media. I'm going to read directly right from his statement. Okay, it says, we'll just read this and let everybody inform everybody. So it says, the status of my YouTube channel was done by my own choice. For the time being, I will not be hosting or appearing on any shows. This is also by my own choice. I've spoken to both the Young Jerks and Let's Talk Live separately over the past few days. Mike has agreed to take over hosting my upcoming live fundraiser for Karen on his own channel on 3/27. Additionally, you will have special guests to promote the 330 National Standout. Right now, I will be fighting to free Karen Reed on X exclusively. I can assure you that I am doing well, and I appreciate all of you who have been reaching out. I apologize for not providing update sooner. I'm a very busy man with not enthusiastic about sharing this news with everyone. I am confident that both Karen Reed and Dr. Turtleboy will prevail. Please continue to make financial contributions to both of them. And that's kind of what I'm doing tonight. You know, trying to kind of pick up the slack a little bit here, help Aiden out tonight. Again, you know, if it wasn't for Aiden, we wouldn't be here. And that's why I'm trying to raise some funds for him tonight. You know, we're at a couple $100. You know, I appreciate it. We'll keep dropping the link here. And it's very important to put inside your donation through his defense link. Just put LTL in there, you know, in your comment section somewhere so we can track it. Right now, we're currently up to $90. I got about 100 and I threw in 100. I'm going to automatically give him 100. But we had a couple donations come through the channel tonight. And we'll give 25% of that. So try to get to like 500 to 1,000 tonight would be great. I'd ask you just use the direct donation link. It would definitely just help them out. So here we go. We'll get back to Karen Reed.
As it pertains to the inspection and the return of the items from the lab to the Commonwealth's, at least the district attorney's office or the state police's custody, one of the issues that we've had with that is that in order to facilitate some of the necessary DNA testing, some of that testing would be exhaustive. And in particular, there is a hair sample that was recovered from the rear right quarter panel of the defendant's vehicle. It was taken to the lab, and I was informed by the lab that any testing of that for DNA for comparative purposes to Mr. O'Keefe would be exhaustive. So on March 10th, I sent counsel a exhaustive testing form that needed to be filled out, whether or not they want an expert present for that testing or don't want an expert present for testing is really immaterial, but I need some sort of authorization from counsel before the sample is subsumed during the course of testing with the lab. I haven't heard anything back from counsel. I spoke to counsel numerous times. I sent emails, and I heard no response as far as that. So as far as the DNA testing is concerned, the delay on that is because I don't have anything back from counsel as far as whether or not they want an expert present, who that expert is, how to contact them, and how to facilitate the beginning steps of that particular testing. So that is why at least in no small part, why some of the items are still contained at the lab is because the testing is still yet to be completed. But I do hope to have the trace and the criminalistics, and I expect that by next week at the latest. And again, you know, whatever deadlines that the court sees fit to or deems fit to put on certain things as far as that's concerned is certainly within the court's prerogative. I don't think that we need deadlines. I don't think that we need an evidentiary hearing as it relates to it, but that's where it stands. As far as the video is concerned, the video was provided by the IT director for the town of Canton. There was a share file that was shared with the troopers. The troopers, upon receiving that, it was Trooper Dunn who received that video, not Trooper Proctor. If I could just speak briefly as it pertains to Trooper Proctor, there is no conflict. Trooper Proctor is not conflicted in this case. I indicated that specifically in some of the oppositions that were filed to Rule 17. So there's been some photograph taken from a social media site, which is purported to be Trooper Proctor with one of the McCabe's children who are witnessing the case. The child that's depicted in that particular photograph is not one of the McCabe's children. The McCabe's have 4 daughters. That's not one of them. It's a relative of Trooper Proctor. It has nothing to do with the McCabe's and nothing to do with this case. Whatever conflict counsel believes Trooper Proctor has just doesn't exist. Now, as far as the video was provided to Trooper Matthew Dunn of the CPAC unit with the district attorney's office, that was then shared with Ms. Crawford. was
Belinda, thank you so much. Let me just pop this. She said, "Thank you all. Thank you, Brian. All these shows are amazing. Keep up the hard work. We need justice for TB. Karen Reed, Cinder Birchmore, and Enrique. Thank you. I appreciate that."
person in our office who specifically who deals with forensic and surveillance video and type evidence. It was then archived on our system. Recently, we reached out and spoke to the IT director with the town of Canton again. That share link I tried to send to council, email essentially wouldn't go through. We tried to open it, essentially it won't open. So the link expired within 30 days within 60 days, if not 30 days of it being shared with our office. But the exact information that was provided by the town of Canton was archived by Ms. Crawford, was then provided to council at her arraignment in Superior Court, as well as I was able to download it onto a Citrix file, which I then shared with council earlier this week. So what we have as a video, what exists as a video, what we were given as a video for those relevant time frames was placed onto the archive in our system, was then placed onto a disk. What's on the disk, what's been provided to council, is what we received.
Okay. All right, your next motion?
That would be Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
You're already pissed. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. Look at the enthusiasm. She's just so full of joy. She loves this case.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. May it please the court. We are, as indicated in our papers, we are seeking summonses, and this is dealing with the animal control issue. That Rule 17 motion, we're seeking summonses directed at two entities, the Canton Animal Control and the Canton Town Clerk, both. We believe they both have records. We know they both have records. These are records that we need, the defense needs, to shine a light on Karen Reed's innocence. These are records that are essential to our theory of the case. And these are records that we have no other option to get but through a summons. They've indicated to us they have the records, but they need a court order. They need some sort of a summons. Your Honor, in furtherance of this motion, I want to talk for a quick second about a couple of undisputed facts. Undisputed fact number one, on January 29th, 2022, Officer John O'Keefe was found dead in the yard of Brian Albert at his house at 34 Fairview in Canton. That is undisputed fact. Where he was found.
Watch Aiden during this. I remember this. Watch Aiden during this.
Found dead, and what the circumstances were surrounding that death are why we're here now. Second undisputed fact: when John O'Keefe was found.
Here we go. It's the chalk. This is the moment. This is the moment. This is the photo right here. I remember this. And I think they're going to go back to chalks like this, because I remember they made a motion the other day agreeing that they could use them. And I think it's a smart move, because we didn't see it in trial one. We didn't see it in trial one, but I think it's a smart move for trial two, because that TV was a fucking disaster. And I've been in that courtroom. I looked at the TV, and I have to even say, I kind of felt bad for the O'Keefes. They had to keep fucking turning and looking behind them. There's no way the jury saw that TV clearly. I mean, I even saw them squinting because of the sunlight that was reflecting off the TV. It was impossible to see. And I was very close to it. And the jury was just so far away. It was impossible to see. And going back to these, they call these chalks. I think this is going to be really good strategy here. It's a great visual presentation, and it's old school lawyering. It's old school courtroom practice. Here it is.
He had this set of wounds on his right arm. The medical examiner indicated that these wounds were concomitant with his death in terms of the temporal, the time that he died. These were wounds that he suffered at or near the time that he died. And the Commonwealth looks at these wounds and says, there's nothing to see here. Why are we looking at this? This is, you're following a red herring, basically. This is just a road rash. This means nothing. It has no impact on our case one way or the other. This is, according to the Commonwealth, simply a set of injuries that John O'Keefe suffered at the hands of being struck by a moving vehicle. Well, first, I would ask the common sense question, does this look like a road rash?
Oh, so
I
good.
mean, the court's got years, decades of experience, life experience, and legal experience. Of course, this doesn't look like a road rash. It's not a road rash that any of us have ever seen. Or does it look more like claw marks and bite marks from an animal?
We're gonna Aiden,
Which is exactly what they are. Second, if it was a road rash, where's the rest of the road rash? John O'Keefe had one set of injuries like this. Deep scratches, deep puncture wounds on his arm, on his right arm only, from mid-biceps to mid-forearm and no other place. For instance, mid-biceps and mid-forearm that you might put in front of your face or your body if a large animal was attacking you, resulting in these wounds. Why are the wounds confined just to his right arm? What about all the other pointy bits of a human body? If someone is rolled under a car or rolled in gravel because of the car, what about the shoulders? What about the knees? What about the ankles? What about the elbows? None of that exists. These are the only wounds. They're confined to his right arm, and they're deep scratch wounds, puncture wounds that are indicative of claw marks and bite marks from a large animal.
Heather, I want to thank you so much for donating the $25 directly to Aiden's defense website. We'll add that up, so we have a total on the website of 115. I got about $100 here that I'm going to donate because I spotted 100, and then any donations that come in tonight will kick back 25% of that to Aiden. And I thank you. Mary just gave a $5 donation, so we'll add that as well, and 25% of that will be kicked back to Aiden's defense fund tonight. Thank you so much for that dono. And we'll drop the direct link to Aiden's website. I'd encourage everybody just to click that. You can make a $5, $10, $25, even $100 would be great donation on there. And just put LTL in your comment section so we can keep track of them by the end of this live. Okay, we'll keep going here.
And third, what about the Commonwealth's own
wide
expert?
open.
She has to have opined about this, correct? She has to have said during the grand jury, I mean, this was a full-throated investigation surrounding the potential murder of a police officer. What does the Commonwealth's own expert say? First of all, she was never asked by the Commonwealth during the course of the grand jury about the injuries. It took a grand juror actually asking the question of the witness, and she said, no, I cannot say that is a road rash. There's certainly not enough evidence to suggest that these wounds are consistent with a road rash. Well, she had to have at least talked about the fact that it was an animal, right? She had to.
I don't even think it was in Aiden's article. I mean, I'm going to go back and look real quick. I don't even think it was in Aiden's article. And I don't even think, and Aiden didn't even show it on his live show that night after you wrote the article on April 18th. Let me go back and look. Let's see. I don't even think it's in this story. I'm gonna page through here. Let's look at it real quick. That's a good. My screen just went black. Hang on one second. That's a good point. Let's look. Let me bring that back up there. Hang on one second. Let me get my screen back. That's a great point. And let's look. I'll bring the article back up. I don't even think it's in the article. This hearing's from May 23rd, and Aiden wrote the article on April 18th. I'm going to scroll through here. Let's see. Nothing so far. That's Colin's hands. He's got that. Nothing. I think this is the first time the public saw it. I think you're right. Yep. It wasn't even in the article. Wasn't even in the article. This is the first time seeing it. All right, back to the hearing.
The Commonwealth had to have asked that question. She actually said nothing about whether or not that's consistent with an animal, because the Commonwealth very particularly did not ever pose that question. But we did. We hired one of the preeminent medical examiners in the country, a doctor by the name of Sheridan, Frank Sheridan, and he wasn't some deputy medical examiner. Dr. Frank Sheridan was the medical examiner for San Bernardino County in California, with more than 12,000 autopsies under his belt, the supervising medical examiner for one of the largest counties in California, and he concluded to a scientific certainty that these wounds are from an animal attack. Period. Full stop.
I remember that. Weird. Full
So,
stop.
what do we know about animals
Another chalk.
and the Alberts? Which is exactly where Officer John O'Keefe was found dead. In February of 2017, we know that the Alberts had a dog. There's a photograph of Brian Albert with a dog, Chloe, in the foreground. By 2019, the Albert family had registered ownership of that German Shepherd. Moving on to 2022, in January of 2022, specifically January 29th, John O'Keefe suffers these animal puncture wounds, these animal scratches, these animal bite marks that are heretofore and up to this date, today, completely unexplained by the Commonwealth. By May of 2022, Karen Reed's defense team starts asking questions about this animal.
That's kind of interesting that AJ said that, right? So you got May 23rd, they're here. The Commonwealth hasn't even made a determination on what caused John's injuries. So he said right here, 15 months later, they haven't even explained their explanation of what they think happened to John's arm. So it's kind of interesting. They're now getting the theory of the dog, of Chloe, for the first time. They're hearing this for the first time. And that would be my assumption. So now they have a piece of information. The Commonwealth now has this piece of information. Now they can come back and counteract and say, no, this is how it really happened, and piece all their story, continue to piece their fucking false story together. If I'm right, I don't know, but I'm just kind of thinking off the cuff here, right? He just said the Commonwealth hasn't made their theory yet about what happened to John's arm. Now they're getting this information, probably for the first time here in court, of what the defense is presenting. Now they can take that and twist and turn it and use it against the defense, right? I mean, road rash. That's right. But they didn't explain how it happened at this point. It's crazy when you go back and look at all this stuff.
Animal, about these injuries, about the dog, about what dog existed at the Alberts house. Where is the dog? We started inquiring pretty significantly that same month, amazingly.
No, I realize
that
they saw it, but AJ just said they still haven't explained what their theory of how this happened. I'll go back and play it. I'm losing my voice.
That are here to 2019, which is exactly
a little
where
bit too far, but
Officer John O'Keefe was found dead. In February of 2017, we know that the Alberts had a dog. There's a photograph of Brian Albert with a dog, Chloe, in the foreground. By 2019, the Albert family had registered ownership of that German Shepherd.
All right, listen.
Moving on to 2022, in January of 2022, specifically January 29th, John O'Keefe suffers these animal puncture wounds, these animal scratches, these animal bite marks that are heretofore and up to this date, today, completely unexplained by the Commonwealth. By May of
It said it. Up to this date right now, the injuries on his arm have not been explained by the Commonwealth. And this is May 23rd. So 15 months later, they still haven't explained at this point, AJ said, of what the reason that is. Yeah, they said road rash, but they can't say how it happened.
2022,
basically what he's saying.
Karen Reed's defense
Crazy.
team starts asking questions about this animal, about these injuries, about the dog, about what dog existed at the Alberts house. Where is the dog? We started inquiring pretty significantly that same month, amazingly. The Alberts informed the cat and animal control that the dog was remarkably and mysteriously rehomed.
Home.
The dog was gotten rid of.
Yep.
And to date, the Commonwealth has yet, as my colleague just mentioned, has yet to release the tissue samples to us for DNA testing to determine if there's evidence in these wounds of a canine attack.
Wow.
We believe there will be.
Tanya, thanks so much for the 5. We'll add that to the total. Guess 20, and of course, 25% will get back to Karen Reed, Turtleboy's Defense Fund. If you do, just click that direct link. You can click that, put LTL in your donation comment. I'm going to refresh the site and see if we had any more donos come through. Cool. We got another one. $5. Anonymous giver says, donating while watching LTL from Alabama. Roll Tide Turtle Road. Roll. So we'll add another $5 there. We're at 120 direct donations on the website tonight. It got pretty close to, about $150 so far that we'll kick off to Aiden here. Direct from donations through the channel. All right, here we go.
During that grand jury testimony, Brian Albert admitted to 3 things. Number 1, he admitted that he owned a large German Shepherd. His words, not mine. A large German Shepherd. Number 2, he admitted that the dog was at his home.
Well, it's funny. I'm looking here. If you look in the back, these guys with the bald heads here, and I'm looking on their coats. Now they have ties on and they have jackets over, and it almost looks like they have a little badge. And I'm wondering if these are some Boston police officers that are there. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that, but I keep looking and I keep seeing the insignia. They have the same insignia on their jackets. And I wonder if those guys are Boston police officers. This guy in particular right here, and this guy in particular right here. I don't know if anybody knows any of the answers to that.
Home on the night John O'Keefe, early morning hours, John O'Keefe was killed on January 29th, 2022. And the dog, according to his own testimony, was inside the house and never in the front yard, which is where John O'Keefe's body was ultimately found. And the third thing that he admitted was that the dog was, quote, not great with strangers, end quote. That's a dog owner's euphemism for the dog bites, the dog attacks, the dog is mean or can be mean. So why wouldn't the Commonwealth ask about these injuries? Why wouldn't the Commonwealth inquire, as we have been inquiring, about the nature of these injuries and their significance in terms of John O'Keefe's death? It's because they know that the answer completely obliterates their case. Their theory of homicide would fold if they got the true answers to these questions. The answer exculpates Karen Reed, and the answer inculpates Brian Albert. That's because if that dog was inside the house that night, not on the front lawn, not in the front yard, but inside the house, and these injuries were suffered or sustained at the time John O'Keefe was killed, then that means John O'Keefe was inside the house when he was killed. And it also means that his body was moved. That's consistent with the facts that we also know to be true, which is not one person that was in that house and ultimately exited that house from that party that night, not one, saw John O'Keefe's body laying in the cold in the front yard. And that's because he wasn't there yet. Multiple people walked out of the house, multiple people who would have no other reason, would have no reason to lie about that. A 200-pound man, 6'2", lying in the front yard on a light dusting of snow in dark clothing. Not one person saw him.
Wow.
But if John O'Keefe was beaten unconscious in, for instance, the basement of that house, and later moved to the front yard after the guests left, there's your answer as to why no one saw him. And it also answers 2 other questions which are looming in this case. Why would Brian Albert rip out the floor of his basement months after John O'Keefe was killed? The second question Why would he sell his house? So in the months following John O'Keefe's death, the dog has been gotten rid of.
Yeah.
Got rid of the evidence in the
It's so
basement.
fucking obvious.
Got rid of the
So obvious listening to this. Like, how do you not listen to this and go, yeah, that's all bullshit. She really hit him. I mean, come on, dude. Displace the dog. Redo the basement. Sell the fucking house. Come on. Yeah, exactly. Auntie BB2 says, interesting how Auntie Bev hasn't told AJ to move on. It's crazy. Why we have a little bit of this pause, it'd be really great if you can click that link at the top of the chat. Make a donation to Turtle Boys Defense Fund. $5 would even be great because $5 just helps move the needle. We'll try to add them all up at the end, see how much we raised during the stream. And I'm committed to giving some money tonight. So we'll keep playing on here. Thanks for being here tonight. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button. Share this stream if you can. And we'll keep rolling on here. Looking back at the hearing that blew it wide open after Turtle Boy's article that was published on April 18, 2023. And this is a hearing from May 3rd, 2023. And you can see that packed courtroom. People are very curious about this case at that time. Here we go.
house, the crime scene itself. Your Honor, I would submit to the court that evidence is literally being destroyed right under our nose. It's been reported that the federal authorities have now gotten involved in the circumstances surrounding this case and have impaneled a federal grand jury to investigate some of these circumstances.
Cool. We just had two $5 donations come in. Victoria, thank you so much. We'll add that. And then we had another anonymous giver of $5 says, don't poke the turtle, LTL. That's awesome. Thank you. We're at about $130 of direct donations. I appreciate all of you. So great. All right, here we go.
But Karen Reed should not have to wait for the feds to figure out which heads should roll. I would implore the court, now is the time for the court to take some action and give us the tools, the defense, the tools that we need to fully investigate this case. We need the
Ivy Forever 12. Thank you so much. $20 donation. Thank you so much. Thanks for the Turtle Boy clips and support. Free Karen Reed. Yeah, I wanted to go back and just kind of look tonight. You know, we're a week out from, jury selection here, trial getting kicked off. And I just can't believe we're here. And I wanted to go back and see, how this basically got blown wide open, where we all came from. I mean, this is where we all came from. This is how it all started. And I wanted to give, just play a little bit of a tribute to Aiden tonight, try to raise some money for his defense fund because he's got a lot of legal battles himself going on, and he needs our help. So I appreciate that. All right, let's keep moving on here.
these records to track down this German Shepherd, if it's still alive, which clearly is an open question. Our understanding is, at least up to this point, is that the dog was not only rehomed, but rehomed out of state, out of the jurisdiction of this court and out of the reach of the defense, or at least that was the attempt. We need those records to find where that dog is. If the dog still exists, we need a saliva sample, we need a hair sample, we need something, and then we need the Commonwealth to give us the tissue samples that were taken at the time so that they can be compared. This is vital to the defense. We ask that the summonses at issue for the two entities that we've described, that those summonses issue. The request clearly meets the Lampron standards. Number one, it's relevant evidence. Number two, we definitely need a subpoena or a summons. They will not provide the information without a court order. Number three, this information is necessary for our defense. And number four, contrary to what the Commonwealth constantly says, oh, well, this is just fishing. I think we've established this is not just fishing. We got a fish on the hook. We just need the court to help us reel it in. I will submit on further oral argument regarding the issues or the summonses surrounding the animal control and town clerk. If the court has any further questions about those, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I can certainly give the court a preview of the second Rule 17 motion, which deals with the phone records and the actual phone of Brian Albert. But I believe the court has indicated and we've suggested that an evidentiary hearing is in order.
As I understand it, the parties have agreed for an evidentiary hearing, and we rearranged our schedule a bit so that we could accommodate you.
That's perfect.
Okay.
The only thing I would say in furtherance of that, very briefly, is the Commonwealth has suggested that Rule 17 is just sort of a regurgitation of something that we filed back in, I think it was September, that could not be further from the truth. There is new information. There's dozens of pieces of new information that we have.
What I'm going to do because of that, let's let Mr. Lally respond to your remarks on the
Of course.
first.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Your Honor, first I would state it's an interesting sort of straw man argument as far as it being road rash, or that the Commonwealth has always maintained that it's road rash on his arm. No one has ever said that but counsel for the defendant. As far as the injuries are concerned to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm and right forearm, they've always and consistently been described as abrasions caused by blunt force trauma, not road rash. I'm not really sure where the road rash comes from. What I would submit in conjunction with that is, again, divorcing whatever evidence the defendant claims from the context of the rest of the evidence and the rest of the case. It's a little peculiar and conspicuously clear from the defendant's fact section that the damages to the right rear corner panel of the defendant's vehicle, embedded within the bumper to that vehicle, is pieces of a cocktail glass.
That don't match. That don't match any other fucking piece of glass that was collected at this scene or anywhere that they don't fucking match. And guess what? They weren't embedded. So stop fucking lying. They were placed on top of that bumper. The piece was placed on top of that bumper. So stop lying. Embedded. Bullshit. Wasn't embedded. It didn't match shit.
The victim, Mr. O'Keefe, is last observed on surveillance video, external surveillance video from the Waterfall establishment that he left just prior to going to 34 Fairview, with a cocktail glass in his right hand. Same arm that's injured, the same type of glass that is then recovered from the bumper of the defendant's
No, that's
car.
not true. That's not true. That is not true. The same piece of glass that is recovered from the bumper, that's not true. That's a lie. That is a lie. That's an absolute lie. It did not match.
As the court is well aware, and I just stated for the record, under Rule 17, the defendant has the burden, or the moving party has the burden to establish that the documents are evidentiary and relevant. Secondly, that they are not otherwise procurable reasonably in advance of trial. Thirdly, that the party cannot properly prepare for trial without such production and inspection. And fourthly, that the application is made in good faith and is not intended as a general fishing expedition. The issue that the Commonwealth takes with the defendant's request as it applies to these particular records is with number 1 and number 4. The Commonwealth would submit that the showing from the defendant is simply insufficient to establish any relevancy or evidentiary value to these records. And then secondly, that this is the very epitome of a fishing expedition. The indication, even from the verbiage that's used by counsel in the motion, sheds light as far as as I just stated, the sort of epitome of a fishing expedition. It's language such as it could shed light, or if true, this fact would undermine the prosecution's entire theory of the case. There have been a couple of theories that are stated within the context of counsel's motion. I can state for the record, those are not the Commonwealth's theories. No one ever said that the vehicle struck Mr. O'Keefe in the head and that's what caused the injuries. That's actually not at all what the grand jury testimony or the evidence has shown throughout the course of this investigation and throughout the course of this case. But those could and if true, those very words by definition evince the very nature of this particular request. The first issue would be with the time frame. As it's stated within the motion, it's from 2015 to present. I'm not sure why so expansive a time frame is needed or necessary or relevant to anything that is a subject matter before the court. As counsel suggests, that photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's injuries suggest that he was severely beaten and left for dead. having sustained blunt force injuries to both sides of his face as well as to the back of his head, that there's evidence of defensive wounds. There's a cluster of deep scratches and puncture wounds to his upper arm and forearm. And then the defendant essentially asked the court to take the then inferential leap that these injuries, which are wholly inconsistent with the injuries noted by both the emergency medical personnel at Good Samaritan, where Mr. O'Keefe was taken immediately from the scene where he was, his body was discovered, and from the medical examiner's finding and sworn testimony. So wholly inconsistent with those, that these are, then take the inferential leap that these are consistent with bite marks or scratch marks from an animal, specifically a dog. In support of these assertions, as counsel stated, there's an affidavit from Dr. Frank Sheridan that the injuries are consistent with animal claw or scratch marks.
Pause. That's the camera.
Approximately 7mm laceration. Positive for surrounding soft tissue, swelling, and positive breath sounds bilaterally, pulseless, positive superficial abrasions to the right forearm. Dr. Scortibello, the medical examiner in this case, who testified at length before the grand jury, described Mr. O'Keefe's right arm injuries as scratches caused by a blunt object. She described or noted that they appeared to be in a linear pattern. She detailed that she observed no signs of an altercation or fight from her thorough internal and external examination of Mr. O'Keefe. And lastly, she testified in great detail as to the swelling of his eyes being related to the fractures in his skull and how those manifested into the observable swelling and discoloration of his face. And essentially what she testified to was that there was a laceration on the right back of Mr. O'Keefe's head, that there was a skull fracture in that immediate area, the right parietal area of the victim's skull. That then caused a swelling on the brain, which she observed, as well as Dr. Stonebridge observed during her neuropathology examination of Mr. O'Keefe's brain post-mortem. That then caused the swelling underneath of the skull, caused the radiating skull fractures that she observed in Mr. O'Keefe's skull throughout, and that the essentially nowhere else for the blood to go, and the looseness of the vascular tissue behind the eye then causes both of the eyes to swell. There was no evidence that Mr. O'Keefe was beaten and left for dead. There was no evidence of any defensive wounds. She was specifically asked those questions and testified to that before the grand jury as to those injuries and how they sustained. There's absolutely no evidence that Mr. O'Keefe ever entered the residence at Fairview on that particular evening. Counsel mischaracterizes some other statements made by a witness, Mr. Brian Nagel, who had come to pick up his sister at the residence. She came out, he observed that vehicle. He observes that vehicle from the entirety of the time that he's there. So he's pulling on to Fairview. Ms. Reed is coming on to Fairview in the opposite direction. The right blinker on and a left blinker on. The operator of the vehicle that Mr. Nagel is in then essentially flashes its lights and allows Ms. Reed to pull in first. So Mr. Nagel is there the entire time that Ms. Reed pulls onto the street when she pulls up. Indicates that she initially pulls over to the right-hand side of the curb, then pulls the vehicle forward a little bit further. That's corroborated in testimony from a number of different people who were inside the house, as well as Mr. Nagel's sister, who then came out of the house and talked to her brother at the door of the truck that he was riding. Mr. Nagel further indicated that at no point did the brake lights come off, including the center top light of the SUV that he observed in front of the house. There were no footprints outside of the vehicle. He never saw anyone exit the vehicle. No one in the house reported ever having anyone come inside the house or seeing anyone exit the vehicle. And I'm a little confused just as far as counsel's statements, as far as the multiple people saw Mr. O'Keefe or never saw Mr. O'Keefe come into the house. Or if he comes into the house and he's attacked by the dog.
10 and 2. Remember 10 and 2? Dome light on. 10 and 2. Dome light on. All I saw was Karen Reed. Remember? 10 and 2. Remember 10 and 2? 10 and 2. Dome light on. All I saw was Karen Reed. So guess what? John's not out fucking wandering the neighborhood. He's not walking around in the woods. He didn't go take a piss on the side of the road. He's not hanging out in the back of the McAlbert's house. He's inside the house. Remember 10 and 2?
I'm just a little confused as far as are they in the conspiracy, or are these people sort of let out of the
Only her.
conspiracy because they say something that doesn't.
That I didn't see anybody else inside the car with her. Remember? Well, where's John? He ain't wandering around. He ain't taking piss in the woods.
Further that conspiracy, if they're all in the house, and Mr. O'Keefe comes in the house and gets attacked by a dog and then gets dragged out to the bottom of the lawn and left there for dead, then why do they all testify that no one came into the house? It's consistent throughout the entirety of all the witnesses. It's consistent with Mr. Nagel as well. It's consistent with the forensic evidence. It's consistent with every piece of evidence that has come to light at this point. And there's further statements in regard to the dog. Some reported incidents several months after the death of Mr. O'Keefe. The counsel suggests ineluctably that the animal was violent and prone to violence from one incident that postdates this particular time frame of Mr. O'Keefe's death, and seems to punctuate that this circumspection on and on about how violent the dog is from an incident that he has no information about, whether or not it involved another animal, whether or not it involved another human, whether or not it involved.
Here you go right here. I'll pull this up. 10-2. Ready? Real quick. Remember, this is what Nagel said. Christina Rex. Ryan Nagel was in his friend's truck. He testifies that he pulled up to 34 Fairview behind the black SUV with brake lights on the whole time. As they drove away, he saw a woman in the driver's seat with hands at 10-2. He didn't see anybody else. So guess what? John's in the house. He ain't walking around. He's not taking a piss. He was inside the house.
What exactly the incident occurred. This is simply not what Rule 17 is to be used for. That's what the case law has consistently held, is that it is not a discovery tool. It is based on information, relevant evidentiary support, which is completely and utterly lacking in this particular motion, in this particular submission. So for those reasons, the Commonwealth would request that the motion be denied.
Okay. So the second Rule 17 motion, are we going forward on that and then having the hearing regarding the timing of the video? How are we going forward with this before I hear from you on the substance, Mr. Jackson? What is the next date for?
May 25th.
Right. What's it for? The evidentiary hearing?
Yes.
All right. So do you plan on arguing your Rule 17 motion today or that day? Not both?
That day.
Okay.
I'd rather reserve and
That makes sense to
that day.
That makes sense to me as well. So we're finished for today, unless there was any follow-up to Mr. Lally. I'm not going to hear a preview on the motion that we're going to hear on that day.
That's fine.
Andrew, thank you so much for popping $10 into Turtleboy's pot. It says from the LTL crew. Thank you so much. We'll add that on. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hear you on that.
Thank you. With regard to the dog, first of all, I think the Commonwealth misses the point. If there was a fight inside the house with the dog's owner, the dog would likely attack. That is the idea that is borne out by the evidence that we have. We know that he was beaten. We've got evidence that John O'Keefe was beaten, that he lay there unconscious. And we also have evidence that at the time he was beaten facially and blunt force was used against the back of his head, he was also attacked by an animal. Well, Brian Albert, who's a known fighter, owns a 90-pound German Shepherd that has since been gotten rid of and had a skin-piercing incident as the excuse for having gotten rid of him. So we know that the dog attacks according to sort of uncontroverted evidence. We weren't saying, we don't suggest that the dog killed John O'Keefe. We're suggesting that the dog was there when John O'Keefe died and also attacked John O'Keefe. Yep. That's the point. This is the first I've heard of the Commonwealth's new position after, 15, 16 months, that somehow John O'Keefe was stabbed or cut up with a broken cocktail glass, which would produce These injuries? That makes absolutely no sense. It just doesn't pass the sniff test. These are not from a cocktail glass.
So it went
Who did
from
that to him?
the cocktail glass, then they changed the theory to the light, right? So it went from the cocktail glass, and then it went to the light, the tail light, because they knew that was bullshit. Because the cocktail glass on the back of the bumper didn't even match anything from the scene.
Is there a new theory that Karen Reed got out of the car, broke a cocktail glass, then wielded an edge of that cocktail glass and cut up John's arm? Then John stood there while she jumps in the car, slams it in reverse, then hits her in the car with her tail light in the back of the head. It makes absolutely no sense. That is the Commonwealth grasping at straws. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. This looks like an animal attack because it is an animal attack.
Yep.
And it's at the same time, temporally at the same time, that he was otherwise beaten and then ultimately left for dead. Interestingly, it's interesting that the Commonwealth doesn't mention the basement in their arguments. I mentioned the basement because that's very likely exactly where John O'Keefe went once he walked into the house. There's no evidence that John O'Keefe walked into the house. The Commonwealth has evidence that John O'Keefe went to the house. They haven't. They just sat on it for several years, or for several months, over a year. That the Apple Health data from John O'Keefe's own phone establishes that once he was at the location at 34 Fairview, he climbed 3 sets of stairs. The Albert House happens to be 3 floors, a basement, a middle floor, and an upstairs. His Apple Health data also shows that he took multiple steps after he left the car, after he left Karen Reed's vehicle.
I'm going to pause that real quick because I want to share this with all of you. So the other day I took my friend Lauren over to 34 Fairview, and she kind of did a little bit of an experiment here, and I'm gonna increase this so we can read it. Oops, that's too much. So she said, today I saw 34 Fairview. Hope you can see my screen here. Yeah, I saw 34 Fairview. Oh, why don't I just click into it? Here we go. Bring this back down. Damn it. Here we go. She said, today I saw 34 Fairview Road for the first time after driving and walking down the street. This is my Apple Health data. The second red line is from when I arrived at LTL Media Studio at 10 a.m. And the third red line is when we left at 12 p.m. We went by the house. I'll get this out. We went by the house around 1 p.m. and my phone never recorded any flights of stairs. In fact, the stairs I took from the second to the first floor of my house at 9 a.m. weren't recorded. So a false negative seems much more likely than a false positive. John went in the house. That was a cool little experiment that she had going there. All right, let's go back to the hearing, and then we're going to finish up here for tonight. Let's see if we have any other donos that went through the website here. Oh, we got another, let's see. Nothing yet here, but we're at about 140 on the website. We got close to $200 here, and we'll keep cranking away. We got another, 15 minutes here in the hearing.
The multiple steps indicate that
hey,
he was
Britt,
in the
how are
house.
you? Good to see
If, in fact, the Commonwealth were correct, and he stepped out of the car, was hit by the car, and fell down and died. If that's what their theory is, you would have no Apple Health data suggesting that he was climbing stairs and walking about as if he were inside the house and was ushered down to the basement, at which point...
Britt, you'll have to get me in touch with, if you could, Miss McKinney, if you have any contact information of her, please reach out to me on X. I'd love to get her up here on the show and kind of get her perspective and theory on all of this. I know she's been kind of making the rounds on the shows but I'd love to get her up here and kind of hear her theory. All right, let's keep playing.
There was a fight. He was
Thank you,
beaten
Britt.
to unconsciousness. And then everybody in the house leaves, not having to go down to the basement. There's a door that services that basement that's closed. So there's no reason for people who are upstairs, either upstairs or on the main floor of the house, to even know that there had been a fight downstairs, or that John O'Keefe never made it out of the house alive or conscious. With regard to Ryan Nagel,
Britt, I'd also like to, because I do the rotating guest on Sunday when I have my Sunday show with Lauren, I'd like to get you up on the panel and do a guest spot with us. So I'll reach out to you. We have something planned for the National Standout, so we're not going to be having any guests on that show, but maybe the show after that, we can do something together. I'll reach out to you and get you up on the panel. It'd be really great to catch up with you. Yeah, there you go. I love this. We're only $8 away. I'm going to make a donation at the end of the stream, so we're clearly going to get over that, but it'd be really great if someone could pop up $8 right now. I love that. I love this, love this, love this. We're only at 169,000. We can get there. Just an $8 donation. That's great. Thank you for pointing that out.
the Commonwealth leaves out probably the most important part of his testimony. Ryan Nagel's testimony is that he arrived just after Karen Reed arrived. They arrived not at the exact same time. She turned down the road. Then he turned down the road. As he approached the road, as he approached the house, he then pulls to a stop. He had her car in his sights the entire time, just after she had already arrived. Certainly time enough for John to get out of the car and walk toward the front door. He said that he observed that there was no taillight damage whatsoever. He later observed inside, either through a dome light or through other ambient light, that he could see inside the passenger compartment of her car, and that she sat there alone. And most important, he didn't see her hit anybody with her SUV. That's the most important part of Ryan Nagel's testimony. He didn't see her hit John with the car, which he would have had to have seen if he was situated right behind her. And the Commonwealth has repeated what they've oft repeated several times, which is there was no sign at all of any kind of an altercation or fight. Well,
here we go.
There's no sign of an altercation or fight. How can you turn around and say that a cocktail glass did this? They can't talk out of both sides of their mouth.
Woo.
How could they reasonably ignore two black eyes, a laceration over his right eye, a laceration at his nose?
Love you, Patty. Patty donated $8. She donated $8. And look at this. I'm going to share it. I want to share the screen. So we just got TB over 169,000. That's cool. Thank you, Patty. You're a blessing. That's pretty cool. Love that. All right, let's go back to the hearing and get finished up here. We'll be heading out in a little bit.
It looked like he had gone 10 rounds with Mike Tyson, as my colleague has once analogized. Of course there's evidence that he was in a fight. The back of his hands, deeply bruised. Those are called defensive
Good work,
wounds.
Katie. You
I don't care
pointed
what
that
their
out. Good work.
medical examiner called it. Anybody who's seen any sort of a fight, a street fight, knows that the back of the hands, the back of the arms get the brunt of the punches as you cover your face. Of course there were signs of a fight. Not just a fight,
right
a
there.
brutal
Thank
fight.
you. That's good stuff.
And what does a dog do when its owner is in a fight? What does a German Shepherd do when its owner is in a fight? Reaches out and attacks and supports his owner.
Yep.
And what does a person do when a dog attacks? Usually puts his arm up, his dominant arm up, to protect himself.
Exactly.
And that's where the lacerations, the bite marks, the claw marks appear on John O'Keefe's arm. This is not a fishing expedition. The Commonwealth has an unreasonable expectation. They cite to words that we use what the evidence might show, or what it could show, what it potentially will show, as a weapon to say, well, see, they don't know what the records are going to show. Well, if I knew what the records are going to show, I already have the records. I wouldn't need the court to ask for them. Of course, I don't know everything that's in the records. And the reason that we asked, Your Honor, for 2015 is because we have evidence that in 2017, the dog looked full grown. So we wanted to go back and bracket the proper amount of time. If, say, the dog was a couple of years old at the time that photograph was taken in 2017, we want all the records associated with that dog. Which means we bracketed our request. It's not overly burdensome. It's certainly not burdensome to the Canton Animal Control, and it's not burdensome to the Canton Town Clerk. And if the records don't exist because they just don't, they're too old, then no harm, no foul. But that's why we bracketed our request to go back from 2015 to present. And with that, Your Honor, I believe that we have made a good faith showing. We have met the standards of Lampron, all 4 standards of Lampron, and the summonses should issue. And also,
All right. Anything else, Mr. Lally?
Just briefly, Your Honor, as it pertains to, Commonwealth would agree that attributing the cuts on Mr. O'Keefe's arm in their entirety to cocktail blast would be somewhat ridiculous. That's not what I said. And that's not what I was attributing them to. And I think the court understood that, but just so counsel understands that as well. As it pertains to Mr. Nagel, what is
Okay, let's hear
in
this.
his testimony is that he had the vehicle, they arrived at the residence in tandem. The vehicle was there when Mr. Nagel left. So while he sees no one exit the vehicle, no one enter the house, and no one else sees anyone exit the vehicle or enter the house during that specific time frame, the defendant, and presumably Mr. O'Keefe, are still there and still in the vehicle at the time Mr. Nagel leaves the house. That was the point that I was making with that.
That's not true.
As it pertains
Nagel said that he drove by 10 and 2, looked in, dome light on, didn't see, just only saw Karen. John wasn't inside the car. There wasn't anybody in the passenger seat. That's a lie. That is a lie.
to the Apple Health data, and obviously we'll get into this a little bit more when it comes to that subsequent Rule 17 motion. The Apple Health data is the same Apple Health data that's being relied upon for the supposition that Mr. O'Keefe went inside the house. That same Apple Health data has, among other things, Mr. O'Keefe taking 46 steps and traveling a certain bit of distance around 11:56 a.m. on January 29th. The problem with that is that he was pronounced deceased at the Good Samaritan Medical Center at 7:50 a.m., some 4 hours prior to that. In addition to that, from the information as far as when that ascending or descending of stairs occurred between, I believe it's 12:21 and 12:24 a.m., there's a Waze search and location data from Mr. O'Keefe's phone. The Waze search is conducted, and the GPS location information from Mr. O'Keefe's phone shows him en route to the house and not arriving at the house until 12:24 a.m. So the information the council is relying on has him going up and down 3 flights of stairs before he's even at the house. So for those reasons, again, the Commonwealth would submit the defendant has not met its burden and ask that the motion be denied. Before we do conclude, I just did want to remind the court there are a couple of other issues that I need to address with the court, specifically the Commonwealth's motions to impound and the Commonwealth's motion for access to the defendant's phone.
Dude, thank God this case wasn't under seal, right? I know Brennan's trying to fucking do it now, but thank God that we got all the information that we got, that we could look at these court documents and sort through them. I mean, this would be a mess. I mean, look at the Idaho 4 case. The fucking case has been under seal for like 3 years. And finally Judge Hippler's like, nope, we're just going to start opening all this up. It should have been public in the first place to cut down all of the confusion. Now it's even more confusing in that whole case. I still think that they have the guy, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that if it was privileged and put out there in the public, you know, a lot of the stuff that's been brutalized on the family and the other roommates that were in that house, I mean, probably wouldn't have happened. All right, let's go here.
So there were 2 motions to impound that the Commonwealth had filed. One pertains to the grand jury transcripts and exhibits that I had attached as attachments or exhibits to the opposition to this specific motion, and really to
Okay,
both motions.
and those are impounded by statute.
Right. The other motion to impound that I filed pertains to the attachments to the defendant's Rule 17 motion pertaining to Mr. Albert's cell phone and the call detail records of Ms. McCabe and Mr. Albert. Now, certainly the Commonwealth is not saying in any way, shape, or form that those items shouldn't be submitted. The defendant can submit whatever she wants, whatever counsel wants in support of that request for the court to review. But the manner in which the information is released, and specifically what I take issue with, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this on behalf of the O'Keefe family.
I'm not sure they hear you.
In reference to the motion to impound the attachments to the defendant's Rule 17 motion for Mr. Albert's phone and the call detail records of Mr. Albert and Ms. McCabe, I'd be remiss if I didn't, on behalf of the O'Keefe family, as well as just what the statutory rules are, and specifically I'm talking about the Supreme Judicial Court, Rule 124.
Bring this up. Britt says, Brian, I want to say that you have such a classy visual, and your streams are so well put together. I appreciate that, Britt. I really do appreciate that. I put a lot of work, try to put a lot of work into what I do here, and nothing short of yourself. I mean, doing a great job on your channel. I mean, you've had some really big powered people on your channel. You should, take a congratulatory bow for that, and putting the work in. I admire people that put in work and put in hard work and effort into what they do. And express their passion. This is a passion of mine. I might not be perfect. I may say things that are wrong at times, but I truly do care in all of this. And I hope that can come across. And I get it. I may not be the most popular creator in this movement. That's not what it's about to me. If I can get one person just to watch this live stream and inform them from my point of view, or give them some information and feedback on what's going on inside, these cases that we cover, is what I want to do here, and continue to grow the channel, grow this live audience, and create a culture here. My outlook on this was truth and honesty, and being able to use this platform to give back to my community. Do donation streams and cut checks from my YouTube earnings to help people in their defense fund, raise billboards. And I'm not done with that. I got something cooking up. Another Enrique venture that I will be doing here pretty soon. But that's what I wanted to do here is just raise awareness, help my community, help people, drop people's links in time of need. We've been doing a lot for Nanette. She's a free Karen Reed supporter, has been in this for a long time, standing out in front of these hearings, out there in front of the court hearings. And the poor girl is suffering from a very rare form of cancer right now. That aches my heart. I mean, this is someone that I see out at the standouts, the court hearings, whatever, and she shouldn't be going through that. But I mean, we have such this amazing, powerful community that we've put together, people that truly care. And I'll tell you, I have learned so much about the human heart in all of this, how much love people have inside them for people that they don't even know. Like, y'all don't personally know Karen Reed. Yeah, you know her from what we do here in the articles that we source in the videos, but y'all don't know her personally. I've gotten to know Karen, but it's not like I fucking talk to her every day. It's not like we're best buddies. I help her. I'm a supporter. I raise awareness around her case. I try to raise defense funds for her. I try to help Aiden out as much as I can. These are people that I'm giving back to, like I said, and this is the purpose of this stream. If that article on April 18th, 2023 was never written, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here right now. You wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? And you got to pay tribute to the people that have helped you get to a certain level, have helped you out, and have supported you. He's supported me. I mean, they've dropped my links before. He's been on my channel to help out. So, look, and that's why I wanted to do this and go back and say, this is really the moment that blew it wide open. April 18, 2023, May 23rd, 2023. I mean, this is the hearing that blew it up, that got eyes on this from that article. So, again, I just do my thing, I just do my thing here. And I don't know. I think there's this like connotation that I'm this like stuck up, tight ass wad person. And I'm none of that. I really am not. I'm very open, and I welcome people and welcome guests and creators to come to this channel. That's why I built this small little studio. I got 2 empty chairs over there with cameras pointing on them. I wanted to do this to open up a sense of community and bring people in and have them sit down side by side with me and have that organic conversation. Yes, we do a lot of things virtually here, but to sit down and look at someone in their eyes, it's a completely different experience. So that's just, what I'm trying to do here. I'm not perfect. I never said I was. I get shit wrong. But I do this out of love, and I do it out of passion. If that's the angle that, I come from. I want to be in this. I want to continue to do this. It's a good stress reliever for me, and I'm a puzzle solver. I like to solve puzzles and put things together and try to figure things out. Like, did this happen or didn't it happen? I've been like that my whole life. If you want to hear more on my life story, just go check out the Auntie Bev stream that I did with Jimmy. It was phenomenal. It was amazing. And it was funny. Him and I were talking today. And I said it was one of the most relaxing streams that I have done in such a long time, because I didn't feel like I was like pressured to do anything, and just kind of talk and just have a conversation. And he made me feel at ease, and it was great. And I encourage people to go watch that. And I had a lot of fun like 2 weeks ago or a week ago. I hung out with the LV cops, and it was just nice. And I like going on other people's channels. I do. I like to do that and help them out. So, look, I'm just doing my part here. It's not a popularity contest to me. I try to be respectful when I do my lives. I look around a little bit, and if people are going, I try not to stream over them. I do my thing. People will come. Everybody is welcome. Any creator, if they want to do something and I feel like they can add something to the platform, I'll have them on. Any expert that has a niche or anything they can add to a case, I'll have them on, and I don't know. I'm just being me. I'm just doing my thing, but I appreciate that. I just, I don't know. I just want to get through this. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here for 2.0, and I just want to be able to watch Karen walk out of that courtroom exonerated and just go on with her life and try to pick up the pieces of everything that's been damaged over these last couple of years. And that may never fully heal, but it's crazy. I've had the opportunity to meet with the Reeds and sit with them and break bread with them. And I tell them every single time that I'm with them, I just said, I'm so sorry that I've had to meet you under these circumstances. I wish it was out of something else. Like, we just walked down the street and we organically talked, and I had the pleasure of meeting all of you. They're a wonderful family, and Karen's a wonderful person. She's smart. She's intelligent. She's on it, and she's innocent. She's completely innocent. And I just feel bad for her mom and dad, because, they're in their later years of their life, and they should be sitting on a beach, not in a courtroom. I have a very cordial relationship with her brother, Nathan. I love Kelly. It's wild. I didn't think I would get this emotionally attached to it, but I am. And I just feel like I have to go until completion and just be here for it in any way that I can. So, well, thank you for sparking that conversation. It's, I'm just doing my thing, I guess, let me just get to this before we keep playing on, and thank you for that healthy pause. But while we're paused, why don't we do this? I'm going to drop the link to Turtleboy's defense fund. If you just click on that, even throw $5 in the bucket, it would make a huge difference. Put LTL in your comment, and we can try to raise some funds for him tonight. I just saw a couple chats come in. Let's see. Kelly S., thank you so much for the $2. We'll add that up. And then I had another $20 one from Auntie BB2, $20. And I wonder if AJ knew during this hearing in the 23rd how nefarious this case would be. I probably had an idea of it. He's a seasoned lawyer, but fuck, man, to what it got to, it's been cray-cray. All right.
Or pertaining to protection of personal identifying information and publicly accessible court documents, which I would imagine that at least Mr. Unetti, even if Mr. Jackson and Ms. Little aren't familiar with, does provide rules as to how things are filed that are of that kind of sensitive nature and that kind of biographical information. And they're routinely filed with the court with a motion to impound or a motion to seal and not filed directly with the media. The issue being that there are photographs depicting Mr. O'Keefe's postmortem at the Good Samaritan Medical Center, as well as possibly some autopsy photos that should have been impounded. There are unredacted Canton Police Department reports, multiple copies. Again, not anything that Commonwealth takes any issue with the court reviewing, but as far as them being made public with, those witnesses' names, dates of birth, social security information, addresses, phone numbers, things of the like that should be impounded pursuant to the statute as well. And in particular, I do take issue with that motion, specifically on page 11. There is a specific reference made to the name of the decedent's niece, which is strictly prohibited as far as being provided in a public document. So for those reasons, I would ask that the attachments to that motion, to whatever extent it can be at this point, given the public release of them, be impounded.
Mr. Unetti?
Your Honor, I believe that some of that information may be in the public domain already, so it may be that the cat is out of the bag with regard to some of it.
It is now, right?
I'm sorry?
It is, the cat's out of the bag now.
Right, yes. So, I mean, we're agnostic on this motion to impound. We have access to it, the Commonwealth has access to it, and most importantly, the court has access to it.
All right, so by statute, everything that was raised by the Commonwealth was supposed to have been requested to be impounded at the time it was filed. So that was not done.
Are you talking about the motion that we filed with regard to the Albert Phone motion?
Yes, the attachments. Mr. Lally just outlined it.
I don't think that there were any grand jury minutes attached to that motion.
No, that was a separate motion that Mr. Lally just filed on behalf of his motion.
Right, we don't have...
when he was taking issue with the defendant who filed.
Right. Okay. Yeah, again, we don't have an objection at this moment.
All right, Mr. Clerk, those are both allowed. All right, is the hearing, those are both allowed by statute. So is this hearing over?
Your Honor, if I could just address, the Commonwealth had filed some time ago a proposed procedure regarding communication stored in the defendant's iPhone. So we had addressed this briefly, I think, on the last court hearing date in February in relation to the defendant's phone. So the defendant's phone was seized lawfully from her pursuant to a search warrant. The information contained therein was then downloaded. Upon a cursory review of that information, there was an indication that there was some communication between Ms. Reed and Mr. Unetti contained within the information within that phone. So obviously all examination of Ms. Reed's phone from the Commonwealth's perspective ceased at that time. And we had begun exploring and filing this motion. I had it in hand to file with the court on the last date. However, after several discussions with Mr. Unetti and counsel for the defendant, I was then informed in court on the last date that the AFE or the independent sort of forensic examiner that would look at that phone was believed to have some sort of conflict. It was not acceptable to Mr. Unetti. So there was a separate person who essentially runs the lab at the Attorney General's office, who I spoke to Mr. Unetti about whether or not that person would be acceptable. He does have a conflict, just so the court is aware, as far as grew up in the same town as the victim and his siblings. But Mr. Unetti indicated that he, at least verbally to me on that date, that he didn't see any issue with that conflict, as the person would just be assigning it to a couple different forensic examiners within his office. I then modified the motion to incorporate that subsequent AFE, sent a copy of the motion to counsel 6 weeks ago or so, and still received no response. So what I'm looking for today is just action on that. The other thing that I would note for the court is that counsel had asked for a raw extraction copy of the material from the defendant's phone, which was then provided to counsel on March 22nd. So for over a month, the defendant has had access to the defendant's phone and the Commonwealth has not, because counsel has failed to respond to whether or not the AFE was reliable or not. And what I was referencing on the last court date is the court had indicated that if we were to come to some sort of agreement, the court could act on the papers and obviate the need to address it on this date. It hasn't happened. I would submit that the proposed protocol was more than reasonable, and I would ask that it be allowed by the court.
So, Mr. Unetti?
Yes. I was the one to suggest that it be analyzed by the Attorney General's Office, Cybercrimes Division. I thought that was clearly, we have no objection to that, but I'll announce it in open court. We have no objection to that. The motion for the protocol, procedure is agreed to.
And you're okay with the individual that was cited in it?
Yes, the individual who was cited in it is the head of that unit. I know who he is. I respect him. He revealed to me at the start that he has a personal conflict. I have no issue with him assigning it to somebody in his office.
Okay, so the motion is allowed by agreement?
That's fine.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Motion is allowed by agreement.
Just one other thing. Mr. Lally had mentioned to me, and I don't know if he still intends to be heard on this, but there was an issue of exhaustive testing that I thought.
He argued that a while ago.
Okay, and was that acted upon by the court?
He said he was waiting to hear back from you where we stood on that.
Right, so with regard to that, Judge, we're all for exhaustive testing as long as we can have our expert present at the time.
So, Mr. Lally, would you say again what you explained to me?
Certainly, Your Honor. So there's a form that's provided by the lab that I then provide to counsel. In this case, in any case, that where exhaustive testing is necessary and the sample will be subsumed within the analysis. So I provided that to counsel. I just simply need counsel to execute that form, indicate whether or not they want someone present and who that person is, what their contact information is, and then I'll provide it to the lab. The lab will then contact their expert and schedule a time for the testing to be done.
Okay, we're happy to do that, but my understanding from Mr. Lally's earlier argument is that only applies to the hair that was found on the car. That was not part of any motion that we had today in terms of a motion to compel. What about the other evidence with regard to the tissue samples and everything else that we actually asked for in our motions today?
Is there exhaustive testing on any of those items, Mr.
Not that
Lally?
I'm aware of.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so we'll sign regarding here. We're not concerned about it.
Okay, is that everything?
From the Commonwealth,
God,
yes.
so,
what
Judge,
All
the-
right, thank you. We'll see you on the
run.
25th.
Everything. It's really like run all the time. Jesus. Like relax. God dang. All right, my friends. Let's see how we did. So I was doing some math here on the website. Direct donations. We took in $173 tonight, so I appreciate that. And then we took $92 in donations off my page here. I kicked in 100, and I would just round up the 92 to 100. So I'm going to donate 25% off 100. It's $25. So I'll add 125. I'll make that donation. Actually, I can just do it right now. Let's make the donation right now. So I'm going to give $125 to Aiden's Defense Fund. Let's see. Far cry from the 3,800 we raised a couple weeks ago. But hey, listen, it's every little bit helps. And I appreciate everybody that did donate tonight. I can just find the donation button here. Where the hell is it? Oh, here we go. Give, right? Let's do 125. We raised 3,800 a couple of weeks ago in like 2 hours, like 2 or 3 hour stream. Is awesome. Oh, let's see. Put the date on there. Chat raiser 25. Let's see. I don't need that. And let's see. On Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when it closes out this stream, it's going to take you right over. Wednesday night, live on the channel, Mark Betterow with Todd McGee live here with me. I'm going to try to see if Mike from the Young Jerks can join us as well, like that 4-way panel that we had last week when I had Nan, Todd, me, and Mike on. See if I can get him over there. If not, just be the three of us. Come see us, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the channel. It will take you right over there after this. Cool. I'm going to show everybody that I made the $125 donation. I'm going to bring that screen up and set your reminders on that stream. Right here, I just did it. 125. We raised that. Put the LTL Media chat raiser in there. So we gave back a couple $100 tonight. Look, we made let's see, 125, 173, what, close to just over $300. Well, $300. That's not bad. Hanging out for 2 hours, put a little money in the bucket for Turtleboy. Like I said, couple weeks ago, we had about 3,800 we did, which was great. But we'll keep trying to do these, trying to do it, help out. And listen, we got them over 169,000 tonight, so that's a success. But I think that's going to be it. I think we're going to end this one. I'm tired. I need to go home. I got to work tomorrow. I got a good 15-minute drive home, so I'll be in bed by midnight. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will be back on Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Mark Betterow, Todd McGee. We're going to try to get Mike from the Young Jerks on here, do that 4-way panel. It's going to be a power panel. Great times. We're going to talk about Karen Read 2.0. We're coming up really close to that April 1st deadline, jury selection, then trial. I'll be curious to see. I haven't even I'm curious to see what Mark's going to say about Michael Proctor. That's going to be my first question that I ask him. What do you think about Michael Proctor's firing? But I love all of you. Thank you so much for your donations tonight. I appreciate all my moderators, my subscribers for being here, and all the nice words that happened in the chat tonight. I appreciate that. And I will be back. I'll be back on Wednesday. I'm going to take tomorrow night off, prepare for my show on Wednesday. We'll be back live. I'm going to hit the outro here. Thank you all so much. Have a great night and take care. Bye-bye.